Alright, so I thought I'd share some of my YouTube patches on the GT-100 that I enjoy playing, and hopefully help you guys if that's some of the music that you enjoy playing here. I got several songs we'll go through. First of all, I'm doing these through a Vox AC15 tube amp, and I've got the top boost fairly low at about 9 o'clock. The bass is at 2 o'clock with the treble at noon. Since it's a pretty bright amp, the reverb and tremolo are off. Any of that's coming from the GT-100. And I've got the output level set right about 1 o'clock. And I'll run through several of the patches here. Most of them are I made for the guitar. I'm using the Gibson ES-137, which is not the easiest thing to dial in U2 sounds for, but it's a nice guitar. I enjoy playing it. My other guitar is a 12-string, and I've got a couple of patches using those, since that's what Edge uses on a couple of songs. I got a lot of information on the Amnesta Study of Edge's Delay website, which is an excellent read for dialing in the delay times and other stuff too, as well as the U2 Guitar Tutorials Forum. And then there's also other websites talking about which actual effects are on the different songs, some of which are fairly easy to replicate with the GT-100 and others not so much. But anyway, here we go. Got the first song here. I've got a patch with Gloria and 11 o'clock Tock for that sound from older albums. Walk through the effects. Some of these will have preamps on, since that's how a lot of people use this, through a PA system or straight into the recording device or something like that. So I've got some patches with the preamps and some without. This one has no preamps on it, and I'm going with a compressor, using just a light compression with 52 on the sustain, a little bit of attack at 10, and a level of 60. Edge does have the Dynacomp compressor in his chain sometimes. I kind of like the light one just for a little flavor. Other patches I will use the Dynacomp. And then for the overdrive, I got the Turbo OD, which is Boss's, the model for the Boss OD2, which I found sounds somewhat close to those older albums. Fairly low drive, 15, 55 on the effect level. The tone is at plus 15 since this is kind of a mellow guitar. So that'll depend a lot on your guitar specifically, so I won't go through the EQ on each patch. And then I bring up the bottom a little bit. Have a direct mix at 30. Again, that you could do that soup to taste. That just mixes in a little bit of the dry guitar signal and mixes that with the overdrive. It has the effect of kind of smoothing it out a little bit, and most of my patches I'll use some direct. And then again, no preamps. Got the noise suppressor off there. And then for the delay, this one I've just got the analog delay at 205 milliseconds, which is kind of almost a slapback type, and then 40 on feedback since it's such a short delay, and a 70 on the effect level. And then reverb, you can do as you want. The plate sounds pretty good. Sometimes for those really big sounds, like I might switch this one to the Hall reverb just for that big sound he got on the Under a Blood Red Sky album, which I enjoy playing to a lot. Then I'll show you something on this patch. I'll just show you once. And this is from Glenn DeLon showed this on one of his videos. You can play an E flat using the pedal bend effect. So right now I'm in standard tuning. And then if you turn the pedal effect on, it's going -1, so 1/2 step down. And I'll turn that on, move the pedal here. Here I'll just play an A chord, which is actually G sharp, but it bended it. And then I'll turn that off. So you can hear. So usually I've been using software to bring the recordings up to pitch. But that's an option you can do just to detune it with the GT-100. And I'll also use that for 11 o'clock tick-tock too. I think its delay is just slightly longer but hardly noticeable. And then if you, what makes these good for a lot of the older songs, you can just change the delay time and get pretty close. Like I like playing A Day Without Me, that's got a 381 on the delay. So here we go with that. Tune there, but anyway, so a lot of times switching the delay time can get you pretty close to other songs. So that's for some old U2, Gloria, 11 o'clock tick-tock on. Here for Electric Co, I've got on Electric Co, I am using preamps here. So I'm using just a fat tone modifier on that one. I may have set that up originally with my 12 string to play that one. So I don't think you need that most of the time. I was playing around with what these effects do. Again, the Turbo OD, drive a 20. Little sharp on the tone for this mellow guitar, and then effect level of 30. And then going into the preamps, you'll see that's a less overdrive than I had on the last patch. Got the Vox lead, the AC30 model, gain of 45, a level of 70. The T-comp is very subtle. That's just there to model a little bit of the sag or the natural compression you get from a tube amp, and it's very subtle. If you see that on plus 10 or minus 10 on these patches, it doesn't give that much of a difference, and a lot of it's just playing around to see what it'll do. It might be more noticeable if you're playing through a PA system and not a regular amp. And then delay time for that one, a 275 with 22 on a feedback and a level around 80 for that Electric Co. Another fun one to play. This one I do have the Hall reverb on, and 50 on the effect level. I use around 50 or 60 for most of my reverb levels, so I won't hit that on every patch. Okay, for the Pride patch, for this one I have an EQ in front of the overdrive and preamps just to cut the 630 hertz that doesn't sound very good coming out of that guitar. And the overdrive here is the warm overdrive I'm using for this one with a drive of 5, effect level of 20 and plus 14 on the tone. I usually bump up the tone for this guitar on all the overdrives pretty much. I'm using both preamp sims here with the Vox lead on both. Gain of 30, level of 70, and preamp B, gain of 20 and a level of 70. I built these patches over time, so there's not quite as much consistency as you might think playing a bunch of U2 songs, but I think I've arrived at a good sound on each one. I haven't gone into the preamp settings very much on these patches, but I'll show you this one. Generally, you want to boost maybe the middles and some treble with getting the chiming U2 songs here. These I have the presence up pretty high just to make sure those notes ring out. You might not need the presence that high when you play through your guitar on your equipment. So here we've got parallel delays, and I wanted one of them to be modulated, so I used the modulated on the delay block with the 418 milliseconds, feedback of 25, and the effect level of 100. That's the main one you hear through the song. And then there's a secondary delay using the FX2 block here at 530 milliseconds with a very low feedback. So I got 5 here, which is about 1 repeat roughly, and 73 on the effect level. So 2 parallel delays here on the Pride patch. To get one of them modulated, you need to use a single modulated delay on one, and then a regular delay on your second one, since the unit doesn't do 2 modulated delays, and then the hall reverb again. And there is Pride. Okay, for the Where the Streets Have No Name patch, this is one that'll feature the modulated delays, which are really necessary to get closer to the delay tone on some of these classics. So for this one, and I'm using a guitar sim up front since I have humbuckers on. Wanted to see what it would sound like. The H to S means it's changing from humbucker to a single coil simulation, which some of Edge's guitars use, and I think that helps the tone on this song. So my amp is pretty bright, so I'm really cranking the low end and taking off the high end on this simulation. That'll really depend on your guitar if you choose to use that. And I've got the Boss compressor on this one for some extra sustain, a 40, tack of 10, and a level of 30. I don't think you need the compressor for this one, but I have it on in that chain. For a little bit of overdrive, I went with the natural OD on this one. Wanted to get a little different flavor than some of the others. And drive at 25. Some plus 23 on the tone, effect level of 32. And that's going in here to 2 different preamps on this one. So I've got the Vox lead at gain of 60. Here I got minus 10 on the T-comp and a level of 70. And I've got the delay in this block because I'm using 2... I gotta make sure there's 2. I think there's 2 modulated delays. Or no, I got 1 modulated and 1 not. I don't think when you use sub-delay in FX1 or 2 that it'll go modulated for you. But anyway, I wanted a modulated one, so this is the main delay at 350 milliseconds, 25 on feedback, 90 on the effect level to make those pretty strong. And then for the rate and depth, I've got 40 and 60, and that adds a little bit of modulation and chorus sound to the delay repeats, the repeats only. So that's really useful. For the second preamp, I've got the Deluxe Crunch here at gain of 50, level of 60. And then I've got a extra delay at 530 milliseconds, very low feedback, so probably only one repeat there, and a level of 50. And then these are equal in strength with the two paths, no spread between them. It's something you can mess around with though, it's kind of fun. Won't go through the EQ. And then reverb, a hall reverb again on that one. So that's got two parallel delays, and one of them being modulated. And that's the main one here, and you can really hear the difference when it's on the modulation type versus a different one. For bad, I'm not that good at playing this one, but this one I just have a preamp Vox lead, gain of 15, level of 78 on that one, so around 80. Most of the times if I use an onboard preamp, I start the level 70 to 80, since that's what I've read from other users that they like to do. It really helps bring them to life. And if you set it there, and it usually works, then that's one less thing you have to guess at in gauging the drive and level. Then for the delay on this one, I've got dual and parallel. So this is going to do two separate delays. They won't be modulated, but that way you can set two different delay times and only use one delay block, and not have to use FX1 or FX2. So on the first one I've got 380, that's the main one that you'll hear for 380 milliseconds, 20 on the feedback, and a level of 100. So that's the strong repeat. That might even be a little high. You could probably turn that down to 90 or 80 and still get it to sound right. And then 340 on the second one, with a 20 feedback and a level of only 50. So if you listen close, you can hear two delays going on with that patch for bad. I don't play it that often, but that is one of their hits that a lot of people enjoy playing. And that one I use a plate reverb with an effect of 60 on the level. Okay, for elevation, this one has a lot going on in the patch. Now the closest thing I found to do that intro, I forget what Edge is actually using on that. I think it's I can't remember the name of it, but it's online to find that. But to simulate that as much as possible here, I'm going to open up the channel A. So what I have going in there is a wah before I have the preamp off. I'm using the humanizer effect in front of an overdrive. And that's kind of a filter just to give that overdrive a weirder flavor to it. It doesn't sound exactly like the recording, but that's the closest I could find. If someone else has something better for this unit that comes close to that intro sound, I'd be interested to know. You can try any of the vowels. I've used the A one before, and I think I tweaked that and went with the U sound. You just want them both the same, otherwise it'll change the sound before, and that's not what you want. You want the wah to do that for that intro. And those are coming on with a control assign. If you have questions on how to do those, you can drop a comment in there, but Glenn DeLon also got a video on how to do control assigns. So I have a control assign to the Excel key in manual mode, which will turn the wah pedal on and the humanizer, I believe. So I'll go to manual mode here and hit the control assign, which is the Excel key, and you'll see the FX1 humanizer and the wah pedal turn on. So then when you, after the intro, you can just hit the Excel key, go straight into those big power chords, and then during the verse I turn that off again just to play that kind of weird sounding, turn that on again. So, and you can even change the wah position for a little different flavor of that one too. Just a fun, different sound to play with. Okay, back to the effects on this. Then for the overdrive on this one, I got a tube screamer at 25 on the drive, effect level of 40. I take away the bottom end for this guitar because it's kind of thick in the lower mid-range, but that's guitar specific again. Okay, and then to switch to that middle part, lift me out of these blues, I think are the lyrics. Won't you tell me something new? I have the key number 4 here assigned to the A and B switch. So here I'll go with that tremolo part, switching from A to B. And on that effect path, I got EQ there mostly just for a volume, to match the volumes between path A and B. But the tremolo on 100 wave shape, a rate of 85, fairly high depth at 82, and a level of 50 for that tremolo part in the middle. And then you just hit that. I'll turn the wah stuff off, going back to your big power chords. So this has basically 3 sounds: the intro and verse, which has the wah and the humanizer on, turning those off for the big power chords, and then switching path A to B for that middle tremolo. So that's the closest that I've been able to do to play Elevation, which has some more sophisticated stuff going on as far as programming goes. Let me come out of manual mode here. Next one's Beautiful Day. This also has a few different things going on. So for the main verse part and the lead in, I'll play path A. I've got EQ up front, just because with this guitar I take away a very narrow slice of the low mids, make the overdrive sound better. That's guitar specific though. So the verse part, got the combo crunch here as a preamp, gain of 53, level of 75. Won't go into all the EQ stuff on it, but and then to switch to those big the big chords, big power chords, and the chorus part, I go ahead and switch path A to B. Path B as the warm OD, drive a 15, level a 65. For digging in on those big chords for the chorus. Okay, and then for the middle break, I have right up front a pitch shifter, which is used on that the middle part there. Can't remember all the lyrics to it, but that's got the, I'll use a one voice at 2 octaves up, so that's plus 24. And direct mix of 100. I'm not sure if I'm playing the right frets on that. I learned these songs years ago from probably some incorrect tab. But anyway, I've got the mono mode, plus 10 on the fine. No pre-delay, so that's going to make the pitch shift right off the bat when you hit the notes. And a level of 10. You know, these pitch shifters kind of sound wacky, so you really don't need that much level to them. And that comes on, you can hear the difference here. Let me turn up. So that's without it. That's without it, I'll turn it on. So you can hear what that's doing. So that covers those sounds. With the delays though, I got dual. And these are in series. I might have that wrong. I might need to make it parallel, but I'll have to research that again. 422 on the first one, feedback of 20, level at 60. 435, feedback of 20 and a level of 60. So these are two delays that are almost the same time. I've got them in series, and playing it I never noticed that it might not be the case, and maybe it should be parallel. Since when they're in series, they're going to repeat. The delay repeats of the first one are going to get echoed by the second one. And sometimes that sound can get away from you a little bit. But playing it, I never noticed anything off. So maybe that is right. I'll have to research that again. Here I'm trying a modulated reverb. Another way to add a little modulation to the sound without the chorus block being in there. So just something to give it a little different kind of sound playing at home here. For even better than the real thing, just real quick, here we have the pedal bend again. Got a compressor on here, nothing out of the ordinary there, but for the pedal bend, we're going plus 12, which is 1 octave, for that intro part. When you hit that A note and then hit the pedal bend pedal, now you got the intro part down. Overdrive here, the OD1 in front of the Vox amp just sounds great to me, so here I got a drive a 5, plus 20 on tone, effect level of 45. and a delay time of 345 for even better than the real thing. You could do an increase on the feedback, repeats, and the effect level if you want for the solo. I'm still getting better at using the slides, so I'm not sure if I'll do that yet. That's one thing you can do for the slide parts to make those stand out a little more. So there's even better than the real thing. Okay, for Ultraviolet, on this one I've got, again, the guitar simulation of humbucker to single coil. I use this with the 12 string, and this also needs a bump on the low end and taken off the high end because it's already pretty bright. And then I'm using a split path, so I got one side with no preamp on, preamp sim, and one with the Tweed model, the gain of 20, level of 70. With the preamp sims, I'd recommend, if you want to use these, just get a good feel for how each one behaves with your guitar and your amplification to see which ones sound good. I just chose this not to use the Vox every time. The Tweed's a model of one of the Fenders, I forget which though. And for the delay on this one, I got a modulated delay, 400 milliseconds, 30 on the feedback, and 80 on the effect level. And I think that's what really makes this song sound good, is the modulated delays on it. And I really enjoy playing these chord shapes in that song. I think they sound pretty good. And then a Hall 2 reverb, effect level of 60 for a nice big sound on that one. For City of Blinding Lights, this is a fun one to play. I did a YouTube cover on this one with guitar and bass. The guitar doesn't sound that good. That was with the old GT6 unit. So on this one I've got the Dynacomp on. That helps with the sustain on those sliding lead lines. But the main sound for this one I settled on was the OD1, which I felt sounds pretty good with no preamp sims on, going straight into the Vox amp. Got a drive of 25 and a level of 60 on this. I take away the bottom end, minus 20 here for that, for those, for that chorus part with the notes way up the fretboard ringing out. And 15 on direct mix. This is a good trick to smooth out. If you're not happy with your overdrive sounds, try adding some direct mix in there. And also I like to set the level before the drive. Just helps it dial in a little faster, and I'm happier with the sounds having effect level usually up between 40 and 70 roughly, and then lower on the drive most of the time. Some of them really low at 5 like you saw on Pride. No preamps on this one. And then a delay, modulated delay here at 320, feedback of 30 and a level of 75. And 25 on the mod rate and 60 on the mod depth. I usually like modulation higher on the depth and lower on the rate. That's just a preference. I do the same thing on chorus. I don't like too much warble to it. And then here I went with a plate reverb with a fairly low effect level at 29. Notice the more delay repeats you have, usually the less reverb you need. It just, some reason, a lot of delay kind of sounds like reverb to me. I'll show you something on this patch that you don't really need to play City of Blinding Lights, I think, but it's a good tool for the GT-100 to get good at programming the control assigns. So on this one, I'm changing the sound for some of those single string lead lines that Edge will play sometimes. This song has some of them. Until the End of the World's got some like that. And a lot of songs have, oftentimes during one of the verses, a little melody on just one string. So here's a way to fatten up the sound just for those one string lead parts. So I got a few things going on. For the first assign, all of these are on the Excel key, and it'll toggle on and off. So what this does is it's going to increase the bottom end on the OD, the overdrive. You can do this several ways. You could turn on the fat tone modifier, you could bump up the EQ for those parts, but to fatten up a single string lead line, well, I just did an experiment with this. So normally you saw before it was on minus 20, hitting the Excel key is going to make it go up to a plus 10 to make it fatter, and I just did that when playing it. So the bottom is the parameter on the ODDS. The second one is on delay. I don't want as much delay on those single line because I want them more in the background. So here it's going to change from 30, which I had on the delay feedback, change it down to 20. And then on the delay level, it's going to go from 75 where it was down to 50. And now we'll show that when I hit the effect key and go to delay. And you'll see as I hit the Excel key, I don't think it's on camera, but you'll see the feedback jump down to 20 and the effect level jump down to 50. And then if I go over to the ODDS block, you'll see the bottom end change from minus 20 up to plus 10 when I hit that Excel key. So that's something you can do for soloing. I haven't talked solos here much. I usually just go with the OD solo. That seems to work for me, especially when just playing along with my favorite records here in the basement. So, but even live I like doing that. You can also get fancier with it and increase your delay, increase your mid-range to make the solo cut through a little more. And those are all with the control assign. You can do that with just one button when you're playing live, which is a main feature of the GT series. So there's City of Blinding Lights. Okay, for Magnificent, this one has quite a bit going on, and I kept this on one patch. I wanted to see if I could do all those sounds on one patch, and it works pretty well. The shimmer sound for the verse is not the best, but this is as good as I could get with one patch. So I've got it split up in path A and B, where path A is for the shimmer sound and path B has the chiming riff in it during the chorus. So starting out the chain, okay, I've got a light compressor on, no big deal. I've got, this should be on to start the song. The octave fuzz combined with the pedal bend. So on the octave fuzz, I drive a 70, effect level of 20, and then the pedal bend goes down -12, and that will take you down an octave for hitting that F sharp and dropping that down for the intro. So then for playing going into the next part of the song, you want to hit your button in manual mode for the overdrive, and you should have you should be set up to channel B by default. I need to save that patch in that manner. I'm going to save it now, so that we start out with the right things on. So then for the chiming part, I've got the Vox lead, gain of 35, level of 60. I don't think you need this chorus on. I'm not sure why I had it there, but low rate, high depth, and effect level of 55. That's pretty subtle. You could probably turn that off. And then delay here, I've got dual delays in parallel with delay times of 391, 15 on the feedback, and 90 on the effect level. Delay 2, 261 milliseconds, 15 feedback, and 60 on the effect level. I haven't talked the noise suppressors at all. I think I usually leave these on by default, but I've heard from Edge's tech that he never uses them. So that helps just when I'm playing, keep the noise down a little bit. I don't think they change your sound that much, since they seem transparent to me whenever they turn off when you start playing. So anyway, here is the path A, which I have for the verse. This is best I could do to get the shimmer effect. So I've got a 2-voice harmonist. Let's take the guitar a little bit. Oops. Forgot to turn the overdrive off. Temper that harmonist or pitch. You could also use this with a pitch shifter. I've got one of these on 1 octave and one on 2 octave in the key of F sharp minor, which the song is in. Next in the chain behind that is the Terra Echo, the new effect for version 2, with an S time of 100, feedback of 20, and effect level of 50. This feeds a natural clean preamp sim with 35 on the gain, 80 on the level. Natural clean's a pretty good preamp sim for just building a patch if you're not that experienced at it. It's a good clean sound, or it also takes the overdrives and other effects pretty well. And then another reverb here, the Hall 2, with a longer reverb time and a strong effect level to really get a big shimmer sound to smooth out that harmonist. Not great. If I did these live in front of people, I'd probably get at least another patch separate for the shimmer sound, or maybe another pedal like the Verbzilla or the Behringer apparently has a decent one for not much money. You'll see in these patches I have the Excel. I mean, I have it set to different things, but I never use it hardly. Usually use the Excel key to trigger something else in manual mode. So even though it looks like it's on, don't pay that any attention. And I haven't messed with the master settings on any of these patches since that's new with the version 2. I've got another patch I'll show you which has ambient sounds, which you might find useful to play with U2 songs. I saw this on a YouTube video where someone was doing the same thing with analog pedals, so I thought I'd try it here. So it starts with a compressor. I got the Dynacomp on for this one, and the path is split, so I've got the main sound just going through EQ. That's about it. And then I've got, what happens here is I've got a delay set up. I've got it set up for a tap delay, strong feedback on 60, and an effect level of 50. Now what's important here for the ambient sound is you do a high cut on the delay. So only the lower frequencies are going through the delay repeats. Note I have 0 on the direct, so none of the unaffected signals going through here. Only the delay repeats below 125 kilohertz. So that keeps the delay more subtle, and then you can treat that effect, or that sound, with another effect after that delay. So here I'm using the Terra Echo, and it really gives a nice trail to the sound. Let me play it here. So that's pretty cool for ambient sounds. And then there's another adjustment you can also make here. I'm not using the onboard preamps, and that is on the split. So here I've got most of the sound going through that delay, so the delay repeats. So I'm only letting some of that go dry through the top part of the chain. If I change this even stronger, you'll get more of the ambient effect. Or if I go the other direction, you can make your original signal stronger and less on the ambient. You can also experiment with the spread too. It's another way of adding a little bit delay. Some people do that to make the sound a little bit bigger. That'll split these paths by 10 milliseconds. And I don't even have chorus on there. You could do that. And then a hall reverb for another big kind of sound. So that's a way to set up some other things to do with the GT-100 that are not really that intuitive. I didn't know about it till I saw someone online do it. Maybe it's old hat to experienced players, but it was new to me. And that is, the trick is taking that delay block and only sending the lower frequencies through it, and then treating those with effects down the chain, like the Terra Echo, or maybe another reverb or a chorus, something like that. So, hope these were useful to you, and throw comments in if you have any other suggestions or other songs you'd like to see. I would like to do more of those auto-wah effects, like on Mysterious Ways, and I think Zoo Station has some of that going on. So a lot of fun sounds you can do with this thing, and it's fun to play along with all your U2 favorites. So thanks and good luck.